I want to show you how important it is for all of us to protect the most sensitive and beautiful parts of our planet. From Greenland to Antarctica, from coral reefs to rainforests, even if we believe they have nothing to do with our jobs, our businesses, and our daily lives. I also want to learn together with you the solutions to the climate crisis that are available to all of us in different countries and regions. My name is Pancho Campo, and my personal crusade is to show you, through the Planet Future documentaries, the impacts that climate change is having around the world. Because we cannot wait any longer. The time to act is now. This chapter of the Planet Future series is dedicated to the Thompson Okanagan in British Columbia, Canada, home to the highest peak in the Canadian Rockies, Canada's only desert, and breathtaking lakes. The Thompson Okanagan's natural wonders are only matched by its world-class wine region and the commitment that its people and local businesses have to preserving their natural wonders and to sustainability. On November 2017, the Thompson Okanagan was officially certified as the first destination in the Americas to have successfully achieved the Biosphere Tourism Destination certification from the Responsible Tourism Institute. The Planet Future series wants to show you the initiatives that the region is implementing to fight the climate crisis and to protect the environment. And we're going to do so using the local wine and tourism industries as our point of reference, but combining it with rafting, kayaking, and lots more. Welcome to the Thompson Okanagan in British Columbia, Canada. When doing my research, looking for the most sustainable regions in America, I came across the Thompson Okanagan, which represents a geographic area located in the southern interior of British Columbia in Canada, named for two major geographic features, the Thompson River and the Okanagan Lake.
A place that I call home. It is roughly the size of Ireland, and we boast everything from the tallest mountain at Mount Robson to a semi-arid desert in Osoyoos. And I like to say we have everything except maybe no whales, but we do have an Ogopogo, apparently, living in this lake. We're thrilled to have been part of Green Wine Futures and Wine for the Planet. Sustainability is such an important aspect of what we do because we know everything that we have here is something that we need to preserve for future generations. I've been coming here since I was a child, and I want it to stay as pristine and beautiful as it was when I was growing up for those that will come in the future.
What made me decide to visit the region to record one of my Planet Future documentaries, apart from their Biosphere Tourism Destination certification, was the passion for the environment that the entire team at the Thompson Okanagan Tourism Association, TOTA, always showed. Their help was crucial, identifying projects, people, and companies to portray in my documentary. But, like in all my documentaries, I wanted to witness firsthand the impacts of climate change and learn about the region, what its institutions and businesses are doing to solve the climate crisis and protect our environment.
We started this journey in 2012 when we did a regional destination strategy, and it clearly showed us that what our tourism industry wanted was sustainability. They wanted to know what the future looked like, and they wanted it to be better than the past. And so we embarked on a journey to find out how to go about being a sustainable destination, and we found Responsible Tourism Institute, and we became a Biosphere certified organization. And our industry, our stakeholders, and our residents are all engaged in moving that ideal forward, something that we're incredibly proud of. We've embarked on a variety of activities, including hiring an energy analyst in our office. We have an Indigenous tourism specialist to help work on and preserve our culture. We have an accessibility specialist who helps us with identifying how we can make this a more inclusive area for all. And that's all part of our destination strategy towards being a more sustainable region.
The worst impact of climate change in the region is probably the increase in heat waves, which every year results in devastating wildfires. In the summer of 2021, there were lots of heat waves around the planet. One of those heat waves affected Canada especially, and it resulted in a fire that devastated the small town of Lipton behind me. Extreme fire weather events, including increased lightning and strong winds, are also becoming more common under climate change. Lightning can initiate fires, and wind makes them bigger and stronger. When I was in Greenland, the Greenlandic people, the Inuit, told me about ashes coming from the west coast of America, landing on the ice and preventing the albedo effect, accelerating the melting of the ice. Climate change, and one of its effects is the increased number of fires. Heat waves can be made longer and more intense by another weather phenomenon, a heat dome. In an area of high pressure, hot air is pushed down and trapped in place, causing temperatures to soar over an entire continent. In Lipton, temperatures hit 49.6 degrees Celsius, breaking the previous record by almost 5 degrees. The citizens had to be evacuated, and now they are not allowed to go into the town to pick up their properties because of high risk of toxicity. Such an intense heat wave would have been virtually impossible without climate change, says the World Weather Attribution Network. The Lipton Creek Fire was a wildfire that happened in June 2021, destroyed much of Lipton, and caused 2 civilian fatalities. It was one of the many 2021 British Columbia wildfires throughout the region, and, according to scientists, it was facilitated by the 2021 Western North America heat wave. I tried to visit the town of Lipton to personally witness the devastation and the effects of the fire, and to record more footage, of course, but we were not allowed. The images that you see now were taken from our car.
The day of the fire was still a very hot day. It had been really hot the day before, like 50 degrees approximately. And we were up at the house where you just were because it's cooler there. And we got a call that there was a problem. At that time, there was no ferry. And so everyone over here, that's our access to the other side of the river. We walk across that train bridge. And there were cars parked over there. All of our cars, we park on that side when we need to leave to go wherever. And so we got a call. We went down to the bridge and we went across, and there was smoke and there was flame, and the village was on fire. And that was at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. We saw that. We saw the smoke. We went down to the river and the bridge and went across and had a look. And the cars in the parking lot were exploding from the fire, because the fire started just below those train tracks and went up. And as you probably heard, it was just so fast. And someone described it to me the other day. They said it was like a bowling ball of fire coming down the street. It was just so intense. And the wind, that's why, because it was 70-kilometer winds that day.
After driving by the town of Lipton, we visited Noni and Chuck, owners of Winch Spur Vineyard, house, and vines that miraculously escaped the fires. We had to cross the Fraser River using a small ferry to continue to their house and vineyard, located right in front of the town of Lipton across the river. Noni explained to us that in 2022, all her grapes that escaped the fires are being used for a fundraiser.
Yes, they took all the grapes from this harvest, and instead of mixing in what they normally would do, they made wine out of these grapes. It turned into about 120 cases of wine, Pinot Gris, and all of that will be sold as a fundraiser for the rebuild in Lipton across the river from here. Climate change certainly has affected the number of fires we have, the intensity of the fires, and And I think basically how far they go. Like, look how far that fire went this year. It covered from here past Merritt. It went a long, long ways. So the whole forest was affected. Everybody was affected. And that affects, like I was saying before, it affects the ecosystem. It dries everything out. There's nowhere for the water to go when the rain comes, and so you get floods and you get washouts. And we had our water system all washed out when the November rains came, and had to fix that. And it's still not right, but it'll, like, you're just constantly adapting and wondering what the next disaster will be, right? You're gonna have to do something because something else will happen. We're wondering if it'll be a tornado or what it'll be. I don't know, but yep, there it is. It's around us all the time.
After our unforgettable visit to Lipton and Windspur Vineyards, we stayed at the Thompson Rafting Resort, where we enjoyed a lovely dinner at the Cutting Board restaurant, together with my traveling partner Wendy Ballester and our rafting guide Elliot Eden. This edition of Planet Future brings us to Thompson in British Columbia. And tomorrow we're going to be doing something really exciting, which is power rafting. Did I get it right?
Yeah, that's it.
So indeed. This is Elliot, who is going to be our pilot, driver, skipper?
Raft guide.
Raft guide.
Yeah.
Well, tell us more about who are you and what do you do here, and a little bit about your company.
Yeah, so my name's Elliot Eden. I am the River Operations Manager here at Thompson Rafting Resort in beautiful Lipton, British Columbia. The rafting resort's been here a long time now. Thompson was one of the first actual operations to be founded in Canada, so we've been in operation since 1973 now, and we just love to take people down the river. So that's kind of.
You know, Planet Future is about the environment, especially to create awareness of the impacts of the climate crisis. Have you noticed any impacts of climate change locally, and what are those impacts?
Yeah, so I've definitely noticed a few in my time here. I've been at Thompson for 9 years now, and being on the river for most days of the summer, I've definitely noticed a pretty drastic drop in the population of the salmon. So we are lucky that the salmon do run the Thompson, and we get to see them on a yearly basis. But even from my early years here, the populations have never been the same. And then just more recently, unfortunately last year, during a real hot season, we lost our beautiful little town of Lipton in a forest fire. So climate change has definitely been hitting close to home right now. So
the day was long and intense. It was time to go to bed, but that night I was up for a new experience. And this is where we're going to be sleeping tonight, so tomorrow we can go power rafting with Elliot, our guide. This is known as a tipi, and it's the name given at the prairies by the First Nation members, which is equivalent to the local people, indigenous people. So come with me and let's check it out. How many people can say they've slept in a tipi? But what's a tipi? A tipi is a conical tent traditionally made of animal skins upon wooden poles, and historically used by some indigenous peoples of the Great Plains and Canadian prairies. But modern tipis are now made of canvas. After a very cold but good night of sleep, we were ready for our rafting experience. We use a pontoon, which is a raft consisting of two large inflatable tubes joined together by a metal frame and a flexible wooden floor. In addition to this, they are powered by a very powerful motor, outboard motor. The Devil's Gorge is the best white water of the Thompson River and goes through the 18 rapids that made rafting in the West famous around the world. Our guide, Englishman Elliot, proved to be very knowledgeable and such a nice chap that made our rafting experience even more thrilling and enjoyable. The Okanagan Valley is BC's premier grape-growing region and stretches over more or less 250 kilometers across different subregions each with different soil and climate conditions, suited to growing a range of grape varieties with Riesling, Pinot Noir, Chardonnay, and Cabernet Franc, the ones that I enjoyed the most. I was pleasantly surprised to see that there are so many wineries, from small family-run boutique vineyards to world-class operations, many of them offering superb restaurants and fantastic wine tourism activities. But most importantly, all kept sustainability at the top of their strategies. The Okanagan Valley has 4 official sub-regions, each with very distinct soil and climate conditions: Golden Mile Bench, Naramata Bench, Okanagan Falls, and Skaha Bench. The climate is unique. Daytime temperatures can reach 40 degrees Celsius, but the cool nights allow the grapes to maintain their natural acidity. During my trip, we visited several wineries, which are a big part of the local economy, but also an example of how a region and a very specific industry are fighting the climate crisis and implementing sustainability. The first property we visited was Monte Creek Winery, near the town of Kamloops. This beautiful estate, built with a mission-style design, is almost obsessed with sustainability. They practice permaculture and have introduced pigs to consume the organic compost from their kitchen operation. They also have chickens to help spread the pig waste and add their own biodiversity to the vineyard, as well as honeybees to improve plant pollination. Wildflowers are planted throughout rows to add biodiversity and water retention to the vineyard, and they utilize livestock such as cattle and goats to maintain native grasses.
Biodiversity is such a critical concept for any ecosystem, especially agricultural ecosystems. And when we think about biodiversity, it's certainly not just the abundance of species, but it's also the variety of species that we've got. And we know that there's a number of endangered species within BC that neighbor our property, the badgers being one of them. We've also got a trail of bluebird houses, which are another threatened species in this area. And those are absolutely critical species, and some of them are apex species, but they are also the little bit more showy animals, I would say. And I think it's equally important that we consider the species that maybe we're not always thinking of, and that would include things like plants or even funguses and microbes that are within our soil, because all of these species play a critical role. And the more that we can sort of allow that biodiversity to prosper within our soil, the better fruit quality we're going to have, the more permanent our farm is going to be, and the less impact there's going to be on the planet.
Climate change is causing habitat loss because bees fail to migrate to cooler areas and establish new hives. A recent study on bumblebee migrations found that bee territories have shrunk by nearly 200 miles in North America and Europe. According to Albert Einstein, if bees disappear from the surface of the earth, man will have no more than 4 years left to live. Bees pollinate our plants, which means they carry pollen between plants of different sexes to fertilize them, or even between different parts of the same plant, which helps plants reproduce. Bees even help plants survive by preventing inbreeding. To learn more about bees, I visited Planet Bee Honey Farm.
My name's Olivia with Planet Bee Honey Farm in Vernon, BC. We're a family business that have been around for 25 years, and we're really focused on educating people about the importance of wonderful honeybees and all of the amazing products that they provide us. We get a lot of concern and questions about how are our bees doing in light of all of the various threats of climate change and things like pesticide use, urban sprawl. Those have been issues we've been facing for decades with honeybees and wild pollinators. And now there are new weather events threatening our bees, such as wildfires, a heat dome where a beehive is forced to just collect water to try to stay cool, as well as issues from flooding. And so now we're just faced with more and more issues trying to keep our bees alive, which is much more difficult than it has ever been. And of course, without honeybees, they say humans wouldn't have much time left on the planet just because of all the amazing things honeybees contribute to our environment. So our working hives are just sort of starting to get geared up for spring and summer. So the populations are growing, the queen is laying more eggs, and soon we'll be bringing more hives on site for visitors to experience in our on-site bee-friendly gardens.
What do you have for us today?
So I have our estate blossom from 2020. So this is sort of like what honey tastes like from right here on the farm. So I'd love for you to try this one. It's a wildflower honey, which means it's going to be comprised of all the different nectars the bees are finding in the area. So this was harvested from just 8 beehives. So it would be very much like what the hive we were just visiting would have produced. Blueberry blossom is from Blueberry Orchard. So it does have more of a fruity flavor. Typically, a darker honey will have more flavor than a lighter honey. So we'll see what you think of the darker one. So some people like creamed honey.
Why is this so pale? And
it's in its solid state. So creamed honey is just smoother. It's not going to harden on you. There's nothing added to it or taken away. It's just that it's in a solid form. Some people like that for spreading on toast.
now there's a lot of talk about the benefits of royal jelly.
Royal jelly is the food of the queen. So in the hive, it's what makes a queen a queen. So they can select a queen from any egg that she's laid. They can grow it into a queen bee by feeding it royal jelly. And royal jelly can be harvested. It has benefits for lowering cholesterol in humans. For the skin, it can stimulate collagen production. So it's kind of touted as a natural remedy for many things.
The next wine stayed in our agenda was the spectacular Cedar Creek Winery, one of the oldest wineries in the region and definitely one of the original 10 wineries in the valley. With breathtaking views of the Lake Okanagan, the winery is located into a very steep hill and has a state-of-the-art, very modern and elegant design. Our guide and host for the evening was its winemaker, Taylor Whelan.
We've come a long way, obviously, since the late 80s. There's a lot that's happened in the industry and made of a lot of advancements, but in general, we're still kind of the same winery we were back then. We're focused on North Okanagan, cool climate varieties, Pinot Noir predominantly with some aromatic whites and Chardonnay sprinkled in as well.
What about extreme climatic episodes? Have you noticed changes in that pattern?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, we're sitting here early in 2022. We just had what everybody is calling the heat dome in 2021, which was, we were up to 49.5 degrees Celsius in some of our vineyards here in the Okanagan. We're in Canada, you know. Yeah. We're talking about some pretty hot weather for us. It puts a lot of pressure on the people as well. There was some of our vineyards that we actually couldn't access for over a week because we were locked out of them because of how close the fires were. BC has a very clean energy grid. We're about 95% renewable because we're so focused on hydropower. So the winery, we're focused on using electrical versus natural gas as much as we can. Operationally, I'm doing a lot of things like going to lighter bottle weights. So we've completely cut out the really heavy bottles you see in some other places. Interesting things that you don't really think of as being, carbon intensive, I guess, but historically we've put all of our premium wines in a 6-pack carton. By switching to a 12-pack, we were able to eliminate about 1.5% of our carbon emissions for the business.
That's really interesting.
There's like these little incremental changes we've been able to make in terms of mitigation and trying to lower our emissions. And it's interesting work to do that as well because you get to tweak your processes and try and find efficiencies that you wouldn't usually think about. So we're thinking about site selection. Where are we purchasing land? Where are we planting? We're moving, even here at Cedar Creek on this property, we're moving further up the hillsides. So we're now planting up to 600 meters of elevation, which is about 150, 200 meters higher than we've historically grown fruit here on this site. And we're wrapping around to the north side of the mountain as well. So northerly aspect, it's gonna be much cooler there for now. And I think the wines are probably going to be relatively marginal for the next little bit. But my expectation is that if we have this conversation again in 20 years, that might be the better side of the vineyard and the stuff that's established now.
Yeah. After visiting the property, tasting some wines, and talking to Taylor, we were invited to the Home Block restaurant where Chef Neil Taylor prepared a menu with ingredients that are sourced locally from their own gardens, local farmers, and local ranchers. Accessibility is an integral part of any sustainable development program. The Thompson Okanagan region is committed to becoming a world-renowned accessible tourism destination and to promote access and inclusion in all aspects of their tourism experiences. During my trip, I met with Sonia Gaudet, TOTA's accessibility specialist, who, like myself, had the honor of participating in the Olympic Games. Of course, when former Olympians meet, there is a certain camaraderie. This triggered a really interesting conversation while we visited the winery of Monte Creek, where we also had a very good lunch. Sonia has participated in several Paralympic Games, winning 3 gold medals in wheelchair curling. She was also the Canadian flag bearer for the 2014 Winter Paralympics.
Hello there, I'm Sonia Gaudet. I work with the Thompson Okanagan Tourism Association as their Access and Inclusion Liaison, and we support our stakeholders throughout the Thompson Okanagan region with their accessibility. I work one-on-one with our biosphere partners and help them with their accessible features, ensuring that the experiences that they offer are as accessible as they can be, and we make improvements and adaptations to improve their accessibility so everyone has equal access to the experience that they have to offer.
Martin's Lane Winery was our next visit. The building is an expression of the raw, exposed environment, using materials designed to weather, age, and reflect the natural roughness and beauty.
Here we focus on making just 2 grape varieties, Pinot Noir and Riesling. Let's go inside the winery and check out some of what makes this winery unique, special, and sustainable.
Our host for the evening was the winemaker Shane Munn, quite a character, who has an extensive winemaking experience from regions all around the world, from his native New Zealand to Burgundy and Barolo, as well as North America.
The amount of technology we have in the winery allows me to spend a lot more time in the vineyards. I've just got a notification, for example, that our barrel cellar temperature is rising to do with this lovely kind of warm spring day, and there's about 30 things in the winery I can control from my phone. It minimizes labor, and it means that we can spend a lot more time growing and making great wine.
Their commitment to sustainability and biodiversity is quite remarkable.
All of our vineyards are grown organically. They have been for 6 years. They've been certified organic for 3 years now. The reason why we grow our grapes organically is basically care of the land, caring for the land for this generation and for future generations beyond us.
With their Scottish Highland cows, chickens, bees, and they even have a worms farm for enhancing the soil naturally.
The chickens play an important role in the biodiversity of our site here, along with the bees. They feed on the scraps of all the waste from the restaurants and the winery as well.
Worms are truly the unsung heroes of any vineyard. Their relentless wiggling through the soil creates small holes, forming worm casts that assist in root penetration and water drainage.
So as part of the gravity flow design of the winery, we built the winery into the hillside. So in this barrel cellar, we're approximately 20 meters below the outside ground level. So that means the cellar here is naturally temperature controlled and humidity controlled. So any cooling we need to use here is supplementary. And this is where the wines spend the majority of their lifetime, up to 18 months. So it really is a huge saving in energy.
First Nations is a term used to identify those indigenous Canadian peoples who are neither Inuit nor Métis.
The Okanagan First Nation people, or the Shield people, we're located on right beside the U.S.-Canada border in south central British Columbia. Half of our traditional territory is in Washington State, and the other half is in BC, where we're at right now. Our people are a hunt and gathering people. We hunted deer, elk, moose. We collected berries in these mountains, roots, dug roots here, lived off the land for thousands of years, and now we've, like all Indigenous people throughout the world, we've adapted to contemporary means and ways, but still many of our people still do hunt and fish. Many of our people still carry on some of the traditional practices in the ceremonies like the sweat house or the winter dances. We're trying to bring back our language with language programming here, which is offered here at the Cultural Center as well, and native dancing and traditional ways and means of how the Sioux Indian Band people used to live and how we live now.
Traditionally, First Nations in Canada were peoples who lived mainly south of the Arctic Circle. There are over 600 recognized First Nations, they call it bands, across Canada, and almost half are in the provinces of Ontario and British Columbia.
We still have people that are fluent speakers, not many, but a handful. We still have people that still know the traditional medicines and the herbs and how you treat illness. We still use Spotted Lake, which is just over the hill here, for some of our aches and pains. And so we still have some of that traditional knowledge. Not very few people have that knowledge still, but there are still some. So in any social decision, business decision, we should be thinking 7 generations ahead. And when we log the mountains or do something on the land, we should be thinking 7 generations ahead because of that futuristic impact. And as parents and grandparents, we're supposed to care about our grandkids and our great-grandkids as well. So that's the concept of 7th generational thinking.
I had the honor of meeting Chief Clarence Louis at the Inkamip Desert Cultural Center. Clarence Louis is a Canadian First Nations leader and a businessman who has been the chief of the Osoyoos Indian Band in British Columbia's Okanagan since 1985. He has contributed to the economic success of the small community and has received numerous recognitions, including the Order of British Columbia and the Order of Canada.
In my traditional language, I just said, hello, it's a good day, all my relatives. So for the people not from this region that are from overseas, come to the Sioux Indian Band, come to the South Okanagan. We have an awesome piece of land here, a lot of environmental programs. We have a snake program here as well. We have traditional and contemporary ways and means of exciting visitors, looking after visitors. We have an awesome resort here, and we welcome the world here at the Sioux Indian Band and Inkamip Desert Cultural Center.
The Thompson Okanagan region combines a variety of fantastic outdoor activities with gorgeous scenery. This is a great area to explore lakes, canyons, historical areas, and mountain peaks while you enjoy a hike, bike, sail, paddle, rafting, and kayaking.
We run programs for all ages, so right from the start, we teach the 3 R's, so respect for self, respect for others, respect for environment, and that just runs straight through everything that we do. And so yeah, everything that we touch, we think about our impact on the planet and what our connection is to it. So that's very important to us.
Talking about kayaking, This was our last activity in the city of Penticton with the guys at Hoodoo Adventure Company, who organized a very nice excursion in the Okanagan Lake with a very relaxing brunch. Christine Coletta and her husband Steve Lorney are the founders of Okanagan Crush Pad, a family-run winery located in Summerland, British Columbia. The ownery owns 400 acres of land on 3 distinct vineyard sites, including the beautiful Garnet Valley Ranch, also in Summerland. Each site is certified organic. Christine is very knowledgeable about the region and passionate about her wines. She is also very concerned with preservation of the biodiversity at their magnificent property.
We really feel it's important that we build a place that people can come and really experience tourism, what we like to call mindful tourism. Come and experience the property, understand what it's like to interact with nature, and how we balance out our agricultural program with the wildlife that we share the land with. In British Columbia, there's several important projects that are called food hubs. They're in different parts of the province. And what it does is it organizes local producers, farmers, gets them together so that they can value add and do research and experimental work on completing out the food chain from ground into market. At Garnet Valley Ranch, we have left wildlife corridors for the bears, coyotes, deer, and the odd cougar that visits the site. We feel it's really important that this is their home too. We've given them access to water on the ponds that we have on the property, and we've also encouraged them to wander through it, not linger. Hence, we have 2 Great Pyrenees that make sure that any visitors move along in a timely manner.
To learn more about the renewable energy initiatives of the region, especially solar power, we met at the beautiful Poplar Grove Winery with Ellen Walker-Matthews from Toda, Wendy Ballester, my partner and companion during the trip, and Roger Hubbard, owner of Swiss Solar Tech. Michael Ziff, the general manager of the winery, and Chef Rob Radcliffe welcome our group and prepare a gorgeous wine pairing dinner. Swiss Solar Tech provides highly efficient heating and cooling systems by combining solar thermal with ground source heat pumps, air-to-water pumps, heat recovery systems, and geothermal ground loops. According to Roger and Ellen from Toda, more and more hotels, resorts, buildings, and wineries in the region are adopting renewable energy. Here finishes a very intense day with a visit to Martin's Lane, a fantastic winery, totally sustainable, but also my current taxi shows the commitment that the region of Thompson, Okanagan has towards sustainability and to keeping our carbon footprint as low as possible. They have provided these vehicles, which are completely electric, Teslas, to take us around during the 5 days that we're going to spend here in the Thompson, Okanagan region in Canada. Ready to go. Geothermal energy is heat derived below the Earth's surface, which can be harnessed to generate clean, renewable energy. This vital clean energy resource supplies renewable power around the clock and emits little or almost no greenhouse gases, all while requiring a very small environmental footprint to be developed. One of the hotels where we were accommodated was the Summerland Waterfront Resort, where geothermal energy played an interesting role.
So the way the geothermal system works is out in our parking lot we have a series of about 200 wells that go down different levels. Some are 50 feet, some are 175 feet. I think we've got half a dozen that are 250 feet down. And basically what happens is a glycol substance is circulated throughout those wells, and then that's brought up to surface level, and a heat exchanger exchanges with hot water, in the wintertime and exchanges the cold water in the summertime. So we heat our pool, our hot tubs, all of our hotel rooms with this geothermal technology.
Our next stop was the city of Kelowna, where we stayed at the beautiful El Dorado Resort, probably British Columbia's #1 lake resort. It's a hotel with a glimmer of the old-world charm and European mystique, which was opened in 1926. At the marina of this fabulous resort and in front of the beautiful Lake Okanagan, I met Angela Nagy, President and CEO of GreenStep, a company that provides sustainability assessment, software, and certifications to help businesses measure and improve their sustainability performance.
And we're here at JoJo's Cafe today performing a waste audit. So what that process looks like is we start with a garbage stream and a waste stream, and basically we further sort into a number of other different categories here. And the purpose of that is we're trying to see what products and what that they're using within their business that constitute most of their waste stream. The idea behind that is once we have an idea of what is in their waste, we can divert that from the landfill. And so by keeping it out of the bins that they have out front here, they're able to also save money on hauling fees by reducing their collection service frequency. And we're also able to protect the environment as well.
Well, I think for a long time, even when I was running for office, I would often acknowledge that the Okanagan Valley really has a green heart. And whether it's citizens or entrepreneurs and business owners in the region, for a long time, I think there's been a culture of being respectful and concerned about the environment, and generally businesses are interested in knowing what they can do to improve their sustainability performance, but sometimes need a little bit of help in knowing exactly how to do that. And the Thompson Okanagan Tourism Association really stepped up and took a leadership role in achieving that certification for the destination, and then rolling out programs for tourism businesses throughout the region to help them improve their sustainability performance, to help them understand what their impacts were from an energy, water, and waste perspective, and what they can do to reduce those impacts over time. And I think that's really a really important piece of it. Also, policies in place by the local government, the regional governments, and the province all help to create an environment and a foundation for sustainability.
Another of the very interesting projects I had the chance to visit is Crash Dynamics, where we met with lots of interesting and passionate people who explained to us that the wine industry produces a great number of derivatives called pomace. That's seeds, skins, the yeast, etc. A waste which in many countries ends up in landfill.
We re-ferment pumice and we process it into a food ingredient that is used in a wide variety of different formulations. So it's used all over the food industry. A lot of it is used in meat substitutes. It has huge applications in sodium reduction and nutrient enhancement and flavor enhancement.
Well, typically the pumice or the wine derivative that we use as our starting ingredient goes directly to landfill, or a large percentage of it does. And so we are able to reprocess it in a way that almost all of it is entirely consumed into our product with almost no waste whatsoever.
With the adoption of using pomace as a food ingredient, we run a huge way of reducing greenhouse gases and of making the industry far more sustainable. In addition to the fact that we don't generate hardly any waste at all. Some pomace is used for extracting things like color for foodstuffs and cream of tartar for baking, and a lot of people recover their grappa, but there's still a lot of waste left over if you just do extracts. So we do utilization of the whole material, which I think is really exciting.
SalmonSafe is a leading U.S. certifier of ecologically sustainable viticulture with more than 350 Oregon, Washington, and British Columbia vineyards transitioned to certification. SalmonSafe for wine growers focuses on reducing vineyard runoff, water quality protection, and enhancement of native biodiversity on vineyard sites. On the last day of my trip, we moved to the famous Naramata Bench, which is defined as the bench lands between Penticton Creek and Okanagan Mountain Park, on the east side of the Okanagan Lake. Nowhere else in the valley or in many other regions around the world you find so many wineries, one next to each other, in a single touring route with breathtaking views to the lake and the mountains. At the little village of Naramata, our accommodation was the amazing Sandy Beach Resort, where I enjoyed a luxurious log cabin right in front of the beach with breathtaking views to the lake and the mountains. Cynthia and David Enns are the owners of One Mill Road Winery. She grows the grapes, he makes the wine, and apparently they both love it. They have been making wine for over 20 years, having founded Lofinstock Vineyards, one of the early wineries on the Naramata Bench. Now they're bringing it back to the basics because this time they're working with just one grape variety and one place, their home Pinot Noir vineyard in Naramata. By the way, this was probably my favorite Pinot Noir of all the ones we tasted. During my visit to One Mill Road Winery, we had a very interesting conversation while tasting different wines from the region and enjoying the local cheeses. I also had the chance to talk with Katie Pease from Sustainable Wine Growing BC, who explained to us the importance of sustainability certification.
Sustainable Wine Growing BC actually has as really its largest mandate, I think, kind of an educational component around sharing the practices of sustainability and how to implement them in vineyards and wineries. And so that's something we hold as a really high mandate as part of SWBC. And the certification, kind of comes out of that. First, we want people to just start moving in the sustainability direction, and then if certification is for them, move in that direction. It can be really important for vineyards and really wineries as well, I think in a couple of ways. One is, we've heard back from members who have already certified how much going through the process has just helped everyone on their teams get on the same page, and really understand this is what we're all doing together, this is how we're doing it, this is how we're recording it, and people being able to really set up a system that everybody can understand and work with. Sustainability certifications, really a big part of why they're important or valuable is for the marketplace. The marketplace is really driving sustainability in a certain sense, and I think the pandemic has brought this forward a lot more, and sustainability programs help us to rigorously kind of measure and monitor what people are doing and give legitimacy to their practices.
To finish my trip to the Thompson Okanagan region, my companion and guide, Wendy Ballester, and I had dinner at the prestigious Naramata Inn, where Chef Ned Bell prepares all his food in the most sustainable manner, sourcing most of their ingredients from local producers and artisans. Of course, since it was our last night, we tasted more than a couple of Naramata wines.
The Thompson Okanagan is an incredible place to visit and to live, and our residents welcome tourists from all over the world. We hope you'll consider a trip to this region to enjoy our wine, to enjoy our ski hills, to enjoy our incredible lakes and our pristine rivers, and to just get to know us. We think we have an incredible product, and we'd like you to join us by taking our pledge. Our pledge is a commitment for the 7 generations to come that we will keep this the way we left it, and even better, as we preserve what we have for all the future generations to visit.
The Thompson Okanagan region is a place I must visit again, especially with my family. Incredible landscapes, combined with the many activities available, plus great food and the amazing wines of the entire region, and the state-of-the-art winery route in the Naramata Bench. Well, that's my idea of the perfect holiday. It was a very intense week, but very enjoyable. However, the best memory I'm taking with me is the people I met, their hospitality and kindness. The Thompson Okanagan is an example of the type of regions we want to portray in the Planet Future documentaries. Although climate change has hit them hard, especially due to the heat waves and wildfires, the region is passionate and almost obsessed with protecting their beautiful and spectacular environment, as well as its biodiversity.